You know, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, thousands of people walk into the bush every single day. They're all chasing the same dream, right? The dream that today is the day they finally break free from poverty. But for most of them, that day just never comes. This is the story of one family who just flat out refused to accept that reality. Yeah, this is really where our story kicks off. Just soak in that image for a second. It's incredibly high stakes, right? And what's wild is that this single moment, it's actually the climax of a journey that took years to unfold. So that's the big question, isn't it? What would drive a family to risk absolutely everything? I mean, their child, their entire future, a literal fortune, all on the back of one motorcycle in a storm. To get why they do that, we first have to understand the world they were so desperate to escape. Okay, so let's dive right back into that scene, that dark, rainy night on a road that was just brutal. This wasn't just some trip, this was it. This was the single most important moment of their entire lives. I mean, just try to picture this. You've got the man driving the motorcycle. Sandwiched between him and his wife is their 2-year-old daughter. And his wife is just clinging to his back for dear life. And somewhere on that same bike, they've got their entire future strapped down. 3 whole kilograms of gold. They're soaked to the bone, it's pitch black, and the path in front of them, you can barely even call it a road.
7. That's it. Just 7. Keep that number in your head for a second.
Okay, so here's what that number means. 7. That's how many times their bike, loaded down with their family, their future, everything, sank and got completely stuck in that thick mud. And 7 times they got off, they pushed it out, and they just kept going. It's just an incredible, almost unbelievable level of commitment. So again, why? What could possibly drive them to take a journey that desperate? Well, to really get it, we've got to look at the system they were running from. A system that is really at the root of this entire story. It's called the 1% system, and it's pretty harsh. See, these artisanal miners, the folks doing the incredibly dangerous, backbreaking work of digging minerals out of the ground, they aren't really employees. They're just given access to the mines. But there's a catch, a huge one. The owners of the land, they take 99% of everything that's found. The workers who did all the labor, they're left with just 1%. I mean, the unfairness of it is it's brutally simple when you see it laid out like this. Just look at that chart. It's not just a bad deal. It's a system that is specifically designed to keep people stuck. That 1%, that's not a wage. It's a trap. And well, this trap creates this vicious cycle, right? That 1% is just enough to put food on the table, but it's never, ever enough to save, to invest, to get ahead. So what do? You have to go back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. It becomes this endless loop of exhaustion, risk, and poverty that must feel absolutely impossible to break. But here's where the story turns. Among all the thousands of people trapped in that cycle, there was this one young couple. And they just decided, you know what? Enough is enough. They were going to take a massive gamble, a real long shot that would end up taking over 2 years of their lives. And this timeline, it honestly blows my mind. Think about this. For 370 days, they kept working in that same 1% system, but they scraped together and saved every single tiny fraction of a cent they could. And then, for another 407 days, they were fighting a completely different kind of battle, just trying to find anyone, who would believe in their dream. So just let that sink in. After more than a year of just intense sacrifice, they pulled off something amazing. They got an official permit and a business license. They were legit. But there was a huge problem. They had the paperwork, but they had absolutely zero money to actually fund the business. I mean, can you even imagine the kind of resilience that takes? We're talking 407 days of sending messages, making calls, and just getting rejected over and over. Or even worse, just silence. But they didn't give up. And then, one day, a single email reply changed everything. A couple from the United States wrote back and said they were interested, that they would listen. After all that time, hope was finally on the line. And boom, that brings us full circle right back to that insane motorcycle ride in the rain. That's where they were going. That whole treacherous trip was just to get to a meeting with those investors. This was their one and only shot. And somehow, against all odds, they made it. They showed up in the city of Lubumbashi, completely covered in mud, totally exhausted, but they were there. They sat down with that American couple, laid out their documents, and they told them their story. And not just the business plan, but the whole story of the 777-day struggle it took just to be sitting in that room.
And you know what? It worked. The deal was done, contracts were signed, all the paperwork sorted, and in that single moment, they did more than just start a business. They actually created a brand new, totally legitimate pipeline for gold to travel from the DRC all the way to the international market in Dubai. They built a way around the very same exploitative system they had fought so hard to escape.
But what's maybe even more amazing is how this deal was even possible in the first place. The American investors, they took a huge risk too. See, the money didn't come from some big bank. It came from 200 regular people in their own social circle who all chipped in and loaned them the funds. It created this incredible chain of trust that stretched all the way from a community in the US to that muddy road in the Congo. So, the journey was over. The deal was signed. The big question is, what happened next? What did all that risk, all that sacrifice, and all that belief actually lead to? Well, here it is. This is the result. Just 1 year after that insane night in the rain, the couple that was barely surviving on 1% was completely out of poverty. Their massive gamble paid off in the biggest way possible.
And remember that chain of trust? It held up perfectly, right to the very end. Every single one of those 200 people who lent money got paid back, in full, with interest. The massive risk that everyone took, from the couple in the Congo to the investors in the US and their friends, it paid off for everybody involved.
You know, it would be so easy to look at this whole story and just say, wow, they got a lucky break. But it really wasn't luck. This success story was the direct result of 777 days of nonstop preparation, incredible discipline, and an absolute unwavering commitment to building a better life. And so, this one, incredible story, leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. This couple, they fought their way out, but they're just two people. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other brilliant, determined people, how many other incredible dreams are still out there, buried in the mud, just waiting for that one single chance?